It's scary to look at. I hate to say it. A lot of people think that's black pill, but it's not looking good, and it's not looking good because society is just allowing these people to do the things, and that's the whole point of pressing these representatives. I mean, if we don't have representatives that are going to defend us, protect us, and do what they need to do, then what do we have left? I mean, it's obviously our elections are shaky at best, to be trusted. I don't think many people do anymore. So if you don't have elections that you trust, then what do you have left? You don't really have a country at that point either. So we're moving into a very black zone. So yeah, I would say that you're very good moving out to somewhere where you can raise your own stuff and protect your own livestock and grow your own vegetables and all that kind of good stuff, man. Make sure you're next to a lake full of fish or something like that, or the ocean. So that's prepping is a big thing that we've talked about. So yeah, I get it completely, man. It's not being black pilled. There's a reality that we can look at, and it's scary to look at. And a lot of people don't live in that reality. They don't see it. And like you said earlier about people giving that hopium, or people giving basically putting different stuff out that's not true, or for shock value, or that clickbait type of crap like this. Apparently this Derek Myers guy has done can get people really thrown off, man. So thanks for clarifying everything that you looked up about Derek Myers and putting everything out that you did. But yeah, I was definitely out there on the scene, definitely under investigation. All my people were questioned. It's in the end, I had a viral video and at the Texas Capitol, about 10 days after January 6th, and it went viral. Even had the FBI put out a false statement about a rally one time on 4th of July. That ISIS was going to attack the Texas Capitol in order to make people not want to come to it. So, I've definitely dealt with, the aspect of feds, paying attention to me very, very closely. So, yeah, it's been a not a very fun thing to have to deal with, man. And being a constitutionalist and doing everything by the law is sometimes it'll still get you on a watch list like it has with me. So. I see Helena up here. Chauncey, you've had your hand up forever, though, man. Go ahead, and we'll let Helena come up.
Thank you, General. I just wanted to say to Kyle, thank you for correcting me. But also, I wanted to let you know my name is Chauncey Brown. For those that are in the space that don't know who is the person behind the curtain here. And I'm at USA First Patriot. So I started following you, Kyle. I just want to say thank you again. And we really appreciate you giving us the framework on how we should assess information that is shared. That's very, very important. Yes, I have my trust on default all the time as well. Trust but verify. So I just want to say thank you again for coming up to our space and sharing information that we needed to hear. So I just want to say thank you again. Go ahead, Helena.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Kyle. It's really nice to see you here, and it was a pleasure to meet you on Jan 6 at America's Warehouse. As I sit here in Washington, D.C., outside of the federal courthouse, and we're awaiting the jury to come back from deliberation for Mark and Jaleese Middleton, it's quite surreal to be here and witness what is going on to these Jan 6ers. And really what I'm asking everyone to do is just continue to pray for the Middletons. The longer the jury is out, the better. But we all know that most Jan 6 cases here in D.C., it's almost a 99% conviction rate. We're hoping that this is the one that's going to break the dam, and that there's going to be one juror that's going to be a holdout, and we're really wanting a complete acquittal because the Middletons didn't do anything wrong. I sat in the courtroom with them for the entire week last week and went through their trial with them, and I watched the same videos over and over and over again, and I watched the police attack them while they were praying. They were praying, and a police officer, Chasen and Thou, reached over the bike rack and pulled them towards them and started beating Jaleese. And then Mark, of course, defending his wife, got beat as well. And I tell you, it is very surreal to be here and witness what is happening. But Kyle, I just want to thank you because you truly are an insider who has come out as a whistleblower, and you're trying to get the truth out about how just awful the FBI is. And I'm not saying every FBI agent, but it's really been infiltrated, and there's so many that had been at the Capitol that day and participated in that, along with other, paid operatives. And, we all know that many infiltrated the Proud Boys organization, and they tried to flip Jeremy Brown, before Jan 6 even happened. So we know most of the story. We don't know who each and every individual that was there that day, but I'm really looking forward to more of the truth coming out. And I'm sorry I missed a lot of the space. I'm going to go back and listen in because I would like to know what's going on with Derek Myers. I don't trust anybody, to be honest with you. Everybody not only has to be vetted at this point, but they have to be super vetted. So I'm not sure if he was genuine or not. And I won't bring back up the conversation because I'm sure that you all talked about that. I'll just go back and listen into the space. But Kyle, thank you. Thank you for your continued service to this country, because without people like you, we would never get to the bottom of the truth. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Liam.
Thank you very much. This is, again, a very quick question for Kyle. I've had to interact with some of the members of government and the Justice Department, lower level, of course, but I've had to do so for the last 4 or 5 years. And it was surprising to me when I found out that along with, other employees of the government, that a lot of federal employees were requested or mandated to, follow through with the Johnson & Johnson, the Moderna, the Pfizer. And at the same time, the executive level, the White House level of government, they were exempted from it. I wanted to just ask if you had, if there was any irony to that, or if that kind of, you felt bitter, if that's an appropriate question to ask. Was there any reason to have any bitterness towards that thinking, or any, did you have any further thought to about the why that might be the case? Thank you, Kyle.
Did I have any bitterness about not taking the vaccines? No, I just told them I wasn't going to take them, and they couldn't force me to do it unless they thought they could hold me down and get it done, which was going to be probably a death sentence for somebody. So nobody did. And but I also knew that I was going to lose my job over it, because I told them that that's exactly how they behaved when they went after the Jews. That's what the Nazis did, is they othered people, and they made them treated on a second standard. And it was very obvious to me because I'd actually gotten training as a federal agent in that way. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum does a really good program letting law enforcement officers know that when they're asking you to do the simple things of going after your neighbors, getting information on them, you're the bad guy. And I realized it right away. And of course, many of my colleagues were perfectly okay with it. Unfortunately, many of them actually told me, you know what, some of them got it voluntarily, no big deal. Some of them didn't want to get it, but they got it because they felt coerced. If you're not willing to lose your job over the right things, and those should be things like your faith, your family, your freedom. I had a conversation with my wife, and I said, are we going to do this? Do I need to just shut up and stop being a complainer? And she said, absolutely not. She said, I forbid you from doing something like that. Like, don't you dare. And I said, okay, well, then the cost is just going to be that we're going to end up having to sell our house because we won't have an income. We're going to have to uproot our babies, and we're going to have to find a new job, which I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm pretty well suited to be an FBI agent. And she said, yeah, well, you'll figure it out because you always have, and I have complete faith in you. And because I had a household united, which not everybody is blessed with, some of my friends didn't have that blessing, it was really easy. We just said, this is the path. We don't know what's coming in front of us. We kind of let go of the wheel. You let God take over, and you just know that you're doing what you think is correct, what you've discerned to be correct. We prayed about it. My wife was baptized in April of 2022. This would have been at Easter, on the Easter Vigil, the Mass just before Easter Sunday. And then about a week later, they came and they took my badge and my gun. And I never felt more at peace knowing how stupid that was. So I don't feel bitterness. I feel pity for people that complied with something they didn't want to do. And I feel pity for people that enforced rules knowing that their paycheck and their pension and the things that have gone along with those things, sort of keeping their job and their physical comforts, was worth their honor at a price of like $150,000 to $175,000 a year. I think that's the most shameful thing to find out when you're in your 40s, but it happened for many people. They found out what their honor was worth, and it's not that much money. And that's why whenever anybody accuses me of something stupid, like, you're going to sell out for, I don't know, like a podcast sponsor or something like that. I've had a couple of people come at me. It makes me laugh because I basically gave up. We did the math. It's like $5 million is what the federal job plus the pension plus the benefits are worth until end of life, not to include, whatever sort of prestige comes along with it. And that was easy. That was an easy give up. I literally never feel bad about it. I don't feel like I lost anything that I should have had. I feel like the FBI, I feel like my buddies and I who have been kicked out of that organization were actually vindicated because a shitty organization said, you can't be part of us. And we say, thank God that you've identified us as being unworthy of your crappy standards, which are low and continue to have people. Doesn't mean there's not decent people that I know. I feel bad for them every day. I wish that they go find a job in an OIG somewhere and go work for like Veterans Affairs and find people that are scamming veterans. That's what I ask of them. And the shitty people, good riddance. Enjoy it. At some point in time, they'll either be thrown out of their ass or they'll pay for it in eternity. So that's another animal. That's not my problem.
Amen.
Kyle, wouldn't that be like a level of compromise that would be kind of dangerous to have people in those positions of of power? I mean, if they're willing to take and have the knowledge that it's experimental, to have the knowledge that there's a possibility that may hurt you, and still comply with it and compromise. I mean, wouldn't that kind of explain a certain percentage of people that will only just take any kind of order that they'll get that comes across their desk?
It's a national security crisis. It's one of the major things that I continue to point out. A lot of it comes down to financial insolvency. That we have people that have a national security clearance, whether they be at the secret level or at the top secret, like I did, and they're running around and they're living paycheck to paycheck. They have no financial acumen. They have no ability to say no to an unlawful, immoral or illegal order because they're scared shitless they're going to lose their home. And so they just do everything they're told. When I was working for the Washington field office with the FBI, one of the things that was really amusing in the sequester of I think it was in 2018. So at the end of the year, they basically shut off our paychecks we missed one paycheck for a week or two. We didn't miss more than one pay period. And there were people that were literally stockpiling food in the Washington field office of the FBI's basement and giving it out to support employees who all have a top secret clearance that had worked there for 20 years, making a good salary. And they were literally setting up a food kitchen for people in case they were not able to be able to feed themselves. If you make whatever the government salary is and you have a secret or a top secret clearance, and everybody who works for the FBI, from the support employees all the way up to the chief, to the Chris Rays, they all have a top secret clearance. It's a minimum requirement. It's literally how they threw me out of the FBI, by the way. They removed my security clearance. And what's funny is I proved more than anybody that I dealt with. I went for an entire year without a paycheck. And I mean, I made no money from any employment. I was suspended without pay for a full year and sold my home because of it and all the other things. And that's not like to like crow in any way, shape, or form. All I'm saying is I knew that at some point in time, I was responsible for me. And the federal government is not a very good, it's not a very good person to owe money to or owe responsibilities to, because I'd been enlisted in the military. It gave me a little bit of a heads up about how that works. So I built up a financial base so that whatever decisions we had to do, if we had to move into an RV, that's what we were going to do. 3 kids in an RV and my wife, sounds like a happy family. Better than Little House on the Prairie, because they had a pretty rough go of it back in the day. It turns out most human beings for most of human history have had a much rougher go than even the poorest people in this country right now. So that's what I did. I built up. So we had money. We were not going to go without food, and my kids never knew that we didn't have a job, that I didn't have a job, and why would they? That's my job as a man. And so I only had that job for 5 years. There are people that had that job for 20 years that couldn't handle going one paycheck. They were literally looking out there asking Navy Federal for bridge loans and things like that. It's an absolute crisis of national security because the FBI is just one agency. Consider what's going on at DOD. How many people there have a security clearance that is TSSCI type clearance, and they're one paycheck away from complete financial disaster? Or maybe they're already in complete financial disaster because they're leveraged to the hilt in debt. In theory, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to actually go and investigate your financial situation every single year. But what in reality happens is you make a financial disclosure and they only go review that if they need to get you for something because you've pissed them off for some other reason. So all the safeguards that we've put in place for the federal government to be able to maintain the trust and stability of what our national security programs are, they're really just gotchas that they can use after the fact if you piss off the wrong people and you decide not to get a COVID vaccine, or you disagree with the right supervisor who has the right authority to be able to remove you. It's an absolute crisis. And if you're not talking to your representatives about that, and do it locally, like that is a serious, serious problem. Our vetting system for national security, for the national security apparatus, is atrocious. And I cannot tell you how many absolutely horrific financial operators have security clearances and are have the potential of being compromised at any minute. Because what happens if somebody shows up and gives you 50 grand? Like, you can't buy me for $5 million. That's what I'm telling you. You can't buy me for $5 million. But there are people out there who sold out our country, like Robert Hansen, for transactional money, $35,000 to $50,000 at a time. Imagine that. And there's people that we found out, like most of the federal government was willing to be sold out for like $150,000 if you figure the average federal salary. It should scare the shit out of you, honestly. That's the only way to say it.
Thank you for your service, Kyle.
Yeah,
and thank you for your continued service. And I want to say this quickly, and I'm done. Very quickly, sorry about that,
Go ahead,
General. As I said, thank you for your service, very much so, Kyle, and your continued service in the capacity which you serve today. And I would only add that we, the people, truly do wish to protect and preserve our agencies, but I think a lot of people become afraid. They feel like they could say the wrong thing, and then everything they care about and everything they work so hard to build can be destroyed, because even Colorado has more freedom of speech. Of course, the federal government can supersede that immediately, and they will. But that's where I think a lot of people feel is they love our agencies. That's why we have them, but we're also afraid of them too.
Well, I think the anti-federalists were right. So if you want to go back and read the old arguments, the arguments against a strong federal government were all warranted, and the founding fathers that were on the opposite side. There's a reason why we had a Bill of Rights, and the Bill of Rights was supposed to be a leash that kept government in check. It was supposed to be a hard boundary at which it couldn't cross, and we've allowed that to happen. It's crossed in a big way, and that's because civics aren't sexy, and it's not fun to go back and read what a bunch of old dead guys wrote, but they were brilliant, and they crafted something that had the ability to sustain a country longer than most constitutions have ever done. But the problem is that the American people got lazy, and they got lazy before my generation, but they sure shit are right now. There are lazy people that have not looked into what it is, because we always hear, even if you look at the people that are the patriotic types that are looking and saying, hey, read the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers were arguing on behalf of a strong federal government, which is necessary to a point. But the anti-federalists were the ones that got us the Bill of Rights. And they did so as a compromise, saying it better have some real strong boundaries. And we've allowed those boundaries to be eroded. Think about how many exceptions the Supreme Court has made to the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is supposed to protect you in your home and on your person and in your effects. And they've written exceptions, like if you're in a vehicle. Are you shitting me? A vehicle exception? There's an exigent circumstances exception. The point of the Fourth Amendment was the government must go get a warrant on probable cause only. It has to be a minimum of probable cause, which is still a flexible standard. And they escape doing that. So we've allowed the creeping ivy, the ground cover that is our federal government, to overrun the ground cover boundaries and step out into the lawn in a big way. And it is now choking out everything that we like. And the entire garden is at risk. And that's the reason why, if people don't educate themselves on what we're supposed to do, the way that things were supposed to be done, I don't love any federal agency. I despise all of them. Here's a statement for you, and I'll just Liam, I'll just tell you to walk with this idea. The federal government and all government in general is the worst solution to every single problem, even when it's the only solution. There are some things that you don't want to have. You don't want to have a privatized law enforcement, for example. Government's probably the only answer to that, but it's still going to be inefficient and terrible. And so you limit it and you give it checks, and you try to hedge against the possibility of corruption, which is almost inevitable. So almost all these things can be looked at. These debates were done 300 years ago, nearly 300 years ago. And like I said, the anti-federalists were right. They won out over time. It took them a long time to be correct, but unfortunately for all of us, they were correct. And so the only way this gets done is a 10th Amendment revolution, which is to say that the powers that are not in the U.S. Constitution cannot be pushed over the states. The states have to be able to shirk the federal government, and a lot of it's going to have to be budgetary, because there's so much money that the federal government collects, and that's within the last 100 years. where they've decided to start collecting all of our money and then giving it back to our states. How dare they, honestly? So I want to go places where that's not the case. I want to see governors that are running for office that are saying that I'm willing to resist a federal government and I'm willing to do so at some cost. Like the Seraphin family endured a little bit of discomfort. And I'd like to see some states say we're going to have some discomfort as well. And that might mean that people are going to have to develop some new industry. It might mean that we're going to have to do a little bit more when it comes more with less. And I'd love to see them divest themselves from federal task force and law enforcement to start with, because the federal government will be absolutely emasculated if they do not have the access to what we call task force officers, the local on the ground and the ground troops, because there are more law enforcement officers in the state of Texas than in the entire federal government. And we should start acting like it in all these states. The federal government is supposed to serve the states and not vice versa. We've got it backwards right now. But like I said, civics aren't sexy, but we're going to have to make it sexy again so that people start realizing that the answers were always there. It's just a matter of like re-uncovering them and then getting back to it and holding these assholes accountable. And my language is salty because it's late in the day and I'm frustrated. But I'm going to go with it.
Thank you. That's all I had. You guys have a great day.
That's all right. Yeah, Liam. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, good stuff, Kyle. Yeah, it's scary shit. And on top of that, being in the military myself, you know, it's kind of interesting how they investigate your finances. You know, like you're never supposed to go into debt or anything like that. And I mean, they pay you. I mean, it was. I think when I was in there, it was like $1,500 a month or $1,600 a month. I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, I mean, it's to pay that little to have somebody, you know, willing to basically go and possibly have to give their life for their country. It was a really interesting experience. Can, you know, really see how people get out and they go to contracting offices and stuff like that. But you know what you're talking about, you know, kind of leans over and flows over into representatives, how they go in and we have. Representative wise, we have, you know, a ridiculous ratio when it comes to millionaires. They're actually representatives compared to, you know, their constituents in their states. You know, it's and then you see people like AOC. You know, they're literally a bartender in debt that end up in as a representative, and now they're, you know, they become, you know, magically millionaires and stuff like that. It's really that's how these representatives get away from representing the people. They get bought off in different ways. They get, you know, behind the you know, in the backroom deals that they make and so forth. You know, those little kickers that they get back, the little information of what they need to do to make that extra million or get that extra million offer. You know, and then you get the, you know, the Burismas and the Hunter Bidens and all that kind of crap, you know, but it's you know, the compromise is there, you know, for anybody to see. You just have to look at the finances of the representatives that are in play right now in the government too. So yeah, the federal, it's not just the actual, you know, agencies out there that need a real good, you know, clean rehaul. It's also the political parties too, as well, you know, especially the Republicans too. I mean, it's very, very evident that there's Republicans out there that want a war because it's going to make a whole bunch of their friends money, which is going to make them money, you know. So it's you know, we're moving that direction. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. You know, we're talking about basically, you know, the realm that we're living in right now in this day and age. We have less than about 7.5 months before some pretty serious shit happens, okay? And we cuss on here, Kyle, so it's okay to do that. You know, some pretty serious stuff that's going to happen here in about the next 7.5 months, 8 months. You know, it's a lot of people are still kind of in the fog that they think that everything is okay or everything's going to work out. And, you know, it's, you know, don't listen to the black pill people, you know, that kind of mentality. But we're in a dire situation right now, you know, and I don't know, nobody really knows where we're heading. And we're kind of, you know, moving into no man's land. And we don't really have anybody at the helm as far as the representatives go that we can really truly trust and know that they're going to be there to stand up for what we need. So we need to find out who they are. We need to find out the good ones. We need to find out the bad ones. We definitely need to be prepared to replace these people as representatives, and that's kind of our main agenda, our main goal, our main thing to do. Because when it comes down to it, when we put our voices together and we put our you know, we head towards, you know, a direct goal together. And my dog is sneezing all over me right now. Good. It's like, okay, all right, go on over there. Don't quit flinging snot on me. So, you know, as soon as we all get together and we figure out what the mission objectives are and the things that we need to achieve together, the better. I think that we're really kind of in a chaotic moment right now. There's so much fifth generational psychological warfare against us, kind of like we were talking about, with the mass, mass manipulative psychosis, man. It's really out there, and it's being done by some pretty powerful people out there. So. Right now, there's so much fifth generational psychological warfare against us, kind of like we were talking about, with the mass, mass manipulative psychosis, man. It's really out there, and it's being done by some pretty powerful people out there. So we got to pay attention to that. We got to call that kind of stuff out. The COVID stuff, unfortunately, I was one of the few people that was, able to kind of like climb out of that right away and call the BS on it. And I ended up getting my neck broke in a chokehold from a cop in San Antonio for not having a mask on for it, which went viral. Stepping up for the Second Amendment in Texas, and and different ways, and Second Amendment in general. These are all taboo things that will get you put in the crosshairs of many people that want to attempt to destroy the capability of freedom in this country. So we got to find these mission objectives. We got to find these steps and stages. We got to find those voices out there that are willing to join us in these attempts to get these representatives and get these people lined up the way we need them to be, so that we can secure the future for ourselves and our children. If we don't do that, we're going to end up looking at what Kyle and I were talking about, sitting out in the middle of nowhere and having to grow your own food and grow your own livestock and survive off that while everybody's eating their neighbors and stuff. So it's do we want to sit back and act like everything's okay still and watch the island fall underneath us, or do we want to step up together and communicate together as one and make these changes? That's the whole point of this. We have to do this in unison. We have to do this in intelligent ways that are going to be effective, and contacting these representatives is a good first step for us to come together and demand what we need. We need the truth to be provided on the record. That's got to be done. So all right, we had a couple folks up here. We got eclectic that wants to come up. He was just at the